Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. My name's Amanda Peterson. I'm the Director of Early Childhood at the Kansas State Department of Education, and I have some exciting updates about preschool today. As a quick reminder, the best way to stay up to date on all things early childhood at the Kansas State Department of Education is to join our early learning listserv. You can email Becky Strom to do that by emailing bstrom@ksde.org. Our team sends out email updates about once a month, and those are a helpful opportunity for us to pull together all of the information we're sharing here and more. You can also visit the KSDE Early Childhood webpage by going to ksde.org, and for the alphabetical listing at the top, you can click on E for Early Childhood. That includes a monthly early childhood program update. That's the same update that we send out on our listserv, and all of the information that I'm covering here today, we emailed out on November 19th. So I'd recommend that you hit pause and visit ksde.org and go to E for Early Childhood so you can have this information here in front of you. The first piece that I'll talk about is an exciting update for preschool-aged at-risk funding. And I will note today I'm focused on preschool because we have a lot going on in that area as we're thinking about funding. That's certainly not the only opportunity that districts have or the only strategy that you have to advance kindergarten readiness and our state's early childhood goals, but it's the piece that we're talking about today. So some of you might recall that back in 2018, as the Kansas legislature was updating the school finance formula, they updated the statutory definition of preschool-aged at-risk student to create authorization in future years for that program to serve both 3-year-old and 4-year-old at-risk students in the past. Formerly, that had been the 4-year-old at-risk program, and it was just for 4-year-old students who are 4 on or before August 31st of the school year. You can see the updated definition here on your screen. The important piece is that these can now include 3-year-old students, but at the time, the legislature passed guidance that the 4-year-old students should be funded first. And they also added additional funding to increase the number of students who could be served in future years. As a reminder, each of those preschool-aged at-risk students who are in a district that has an approved preschool-aged at-risk program that's approved by the State Board of Education each year, each of those districts that have a 4-year-old at-risk student who meets the eligibility criteria and who is enrolled and attending on count day is eligible to be counted as a 1/2 student or 0.5 FTE when calculating a district's enrollment. And they're also included when calculating any accompanying weightings. As an additional reminder, any of your preschool students with disabilities who have an IEP and are enrolled and attending on count day are also counted as a 1/2 student or 0.5 FTE when calculating a district's enrollment and weightings. So preschool enrollment does remain lower than what our pre-pandemic estimates would have been. And as a result, KSDE has determined that 3-year-old preschool students will be, 3-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students will be funded beginning in this 2021-2022 school year and moving forward. There's some important considerations. As I mentioned before, these 3-year-old at-risk students must have been enrolled and attending on count day, so September 20th, 2021 for this current year. They must meet one or more of the at-risk criteria for the preschool-aged at-risk program, and they must be attending a program that meets all of the KSDE preschool-aged at-risk program requirements. So a couple of those key requirements are listed here on the screen. If you have visited the ksde.org early childhood webpage, on the right-hand side, there's a couple of additional links. One of them is preschool programming, and if you click on that preschool programming webpage, then you can see the complete preschool-aged at-risk program requirements. It's really important that in order to help us administer this for this upcoming year, you've made sure that your district has completed the short survey that we emailed out to superintendents and board clerks and our early childhood listserv on Friday, November 19th. This indicates whether or not your preschool program for your 3-year-olds meets the preschool-aged at-risk program requirements for this current school year. If you have any questions about the survey or about whether or not your program has already completed the survey, you can contact Natalie McLean at nmclean@ksde.org or 785-296-5081 with any questions. And one question that we've got quite a bit is, all right, our district does not serve 3-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students. How should we complete the survey? You can respond no to all of the survey questions, and you can report 0 for the number of 3-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students served. We've also received the question, can we include 3 and 4-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students in our Kansas Preschool Pilot roster if we're a Kansas Preschool Pilot grantee for this current school year? And the answer to this is yes. So districts should certainly claim all eligible 3 and 4-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students for preschool-aged at-risk school finance formula funding, and grantees can also include these students as a part of their Kansas Preschool Pilot roster, It will be essential for programs to maintain clear records identifying how separate funding sources were utilized. So you should be able to demonstrate how you're using your Kansas Preschool Pilot grant funds to serve a defined number of students and how you're using that to supplement existing sources of funding. We also have some important updates as this relates to the Kansas Preschool Pilot, and these are not new, but this grant is due at 5 p.m. on Monday, December 20th, and so we want to make sure that everybody is well aware of these updates. It's important to remember that whether or not you're applying for the Kansas Preschool Pilot grant, combining your preschool programming so that students aren't segregated out in classrooms based on funding source is a really important step in providing quality and inclusive services. It's important to remember that the amount of Kansas Preschool Pilot grant funding does remain much larger than the amount of funding that's available, and there are other larger sources of funding that are more sustainable that are good options to look to for districts to invest into their preschool. So these include state school finance formula funds, special education funds, and federal Head Start grants. In fact, we have a number of districts who have previously used Kansas Preschool Pilot grant funding to expand preschool services to 3-year-olds. Given that we know that 3-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students are now funded in the school finance formula, we know there are a number of districts who are taking another look to determine whether applying for the Kansas Preschool Pilot grant is worth the administrative effort in future years, or whether it makes more sense to first look to those other and more sustainable options of funding. This year, the application does look a little bit different. KSDE worked with the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund to align our preschool program requirements for the Kansas Preschool Pilot Grant and the Early Childhood Block Grant, which is operated and administered by the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund. So now, this year, applicants submit a single grant proposal to apply for both grants, and we will collaboratively work with the Children's Cabinet to review those grant proposals and determine which funding source is best suited to award for each accepted proposal. We do intend for this process to streamline the grant writing and reporting process locally. It's very important to note that districts who are applying for grant funds to support preschool should use the Kansas Preschool Pilot revenue calculator and budget template to first demonstrate that they're reinvesting those other sources of funding into their preschool program before requesting grant funding to supplement grants. So the Kansas Preschool Pilot is intended to build on other sources of funding, and it's intended to supplement, not supplant, those other sources of funds. And you'll use the revenue calculator and budget template to do that. It's very important to note a couple of things. One, you want to make sure that you're using an up-to-date version of the budget template. The one that we originally posted on the morning of November 1st had a slight glitch in it, so you want to make sure that either it reads that it was last updated on November 1st, 2021 at 3 p.m. When you open the revenue calculator and budget template, you'll see when it was last updated, posted on the very first page in red at the top. So make sure that you're either using the version that says 11/01/2021 at 3 p.m. or one that was posted in December. And if you are downloading it and still getting an old version, you can either email me to get the most up-to-date version, or you can clear your browser cache or open an incognito window so that you're not downloading the previously saved version on your browser. You also want to make sure that you include your 3-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students in the revenue calculator in the relevant lines. So those are 7, 8, 47, and 48 on your revenue calculator page. Those are the ones that are asking you to estimate the number of 4-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students who you have, and then the number of those students who qualify for free lunch. We are not going to make you download and copy and paste an updated version of the revenue calculator and budget template if you've already got started working on this. So we're going to post an update in December that shows, all right, here's both our 3 and 4-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students. The only change will be the title in these lines, and if you'd rather just keep working from the spreadsheet that you've been working from, you can just note in row 61, which is your budget justification, that your estimates do include those 3 4-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students. So there's no need for you to download a version just to make sure that the line reads correctly, that it's both 3 and 4-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students. You can just include your 3-year-olds in the line that's asking for 4-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students, and then note in row 61 that your estimates do include those 3-year-old preschool-aged at-risk students. And this information will be posted in an FAQ on the website, which I'll put it up in a minute. Please do note the timeline. This request for proposals was released on November 1st, and it is due on Monday, December 20th at 5 p.m. That is a firm deadline, so I would strongly encourage you to get your application in well before Monday, December 20th at 5 p.m. so that if there are any last-minute technical challenges, you don't miss this important deadline. And you can view the request for proposals and all application materials, including a webinar and links to ask questions and record technical assistance on the Children's Cabinet website, which is kschildrenscabinet.org/ECBG_FY23. This has also been included in the early childhood program updates that we've emailed out. So it should be quite easy for you to find. It's also posted at the top on our KSDE early childhood homepage. I will note that if you have any questions about this, the quickest way and most efficient way for you to get a response is to visit this webpage, and on the right-hand side there is a blue box where you can request assistance. That's the fastest way for you to get an answer from our team, and also the most efficient way for us to coordinate those. So if you have questions about that, please do visit the Children's Cabinet website to submit that question and request for technical assistance. That's the update for today. If you have any questions about the information covered, you can feel welcome to send me an email at apeterson@ksde.org. Thanks so much for all the work that you're doing locally to make sure that you are working with your community partners to make sure that students in your community can have access to high-quality early learning opportunities. Thanks so much.